Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of UMass Sports Weekly. I'm your host, Casey Johnson. Great show lined up for you tonight. Going to start it off with a recap of past weekend's hockey action. Minutemen on the ice having a rough weekend while enjoying senior night. We'll then get you over to the court, where the Minutemen on the court had a huge win at home over VCU. We'll talk about that and also preview the URI game that'll be happening at the Mullen Center tomorrow night. And then following that, our very own Marc Jean-Louis will have you with our sports desk, and then we'll finish it off with the rest of UMass Athletics. This is UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
And welcome to another episode of UMass Sports Weekly. Now joining me at the table to discuss some UMass men's hockey, Demi, Foley, and Nathalie Sczublewski. Ladies, thanks for joining me. Welcome to the table. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, very rough weekend, I should say, for the Minutemen on the ice. First losing on Friday in Providence, 4-3 to Providence, and then coming back to the Mullen Center for senior night on Saturday night, a game in which they lost 2-1. Seems like the same conversation we're having on the hockey segment from last week. Two tough losses, both by one goal, just like the Northeastern weekend. Nathalie, why don't you recap these games for us a little bit and tell you how this went down?
Okay, so for senior night, Noel Ashiari, I'm so sorry for butchering that name. Yeah, he got a goal in the first period, and it was an assist by Brandon Tanev from Providence. And then in the second, there was another goal by Providence by Marc Jean-Louis. However, in the third, and I thought this was a nice way to close out senior night, Colin Shea, he got the only lone goal for UMass, and it was an assist from Evan Stack and Pat Kaitlin. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened during the game. I mean, like you said, we lost 2-1. And it was kind of a tough loss, so.
Yeah, always hard to lose on senior night. And
Exactly.
Just like the conversations we were having with JMS last week on this hockey segment, it's just two really tough losses, one goal coming back home after losing away. And it's just tough to see that, especially on a night like senior night. Demi, what did you see in these games?
I think we talked about it a little bit, too, like you were saying with the Northeastern series. We're playing teams that are ranked higher than us and look much more skilled when we're playing them. So I think it's really important that we just really need to get more shots on net. Friday night, we saw the UMass Minutemen able to close a 3-goal gap. Providence was leading 4-1 for a while. We were able to get 3 power play goals, but they still outshot us. Now, when you're playing a number 12 team, it's really important for us to be outshooting them, especially when we're kind of coming in as the underdogs. Nathalie touched upon it a little bit. It was great to see that Colin Shea was able to get a goal his senior night at home. That was probably a proud moment for him. Patrick Kaitlin with the assist, so that was great. What I really did like was Evan Stack was able to finally get his first collegiate point on the board with that assist, so that makes me excited. We're losing 9 seniors, which is definitely bittersweet, but also concerns me a little bit for what that's going to do to the program. You know, we're losing Mike Pereira, who's definitely a huge staple, along with the other 8. You know, Adam Phillips, he has a presence on the ice. Connor Sheary, captain. It makes me a little nervous. So to see Evan Stack stepping up as a sophomore forward makes me very excited. I think that was great out of him, but once again, I just really think we need to get more shots on net, and that's just ultimately my biggest critique, I would say.
Yeah, losing 9 seniors.
It's a lot of guys.
It's a lot of guys, and they've lost the last 4 games, all very tough games, including the senior night game. So when you see them losing these games, granted these are against some very good teams in Northeastern and Providence, both ranked, but seeing them lose these 2 games, knowing that 9 guys that lead this team are also leaving, makes you kind of worried for the future of this team and what's going to happen with them coming up. Hopefully they get some young guys that can step up as the team goes into the future. But I mean that's some tough performances to see. I mean, we did see some good stats in there though. But
just going off what you said, Casey, we are losing 9 guys, but you know, Coach Micheletto, he has a good job of bringing in strong recruits. I mean, just look at Steven Jacobellis. I mean, he's a freshman, but he's already scored 11 goals so far. So that's pretty good. And then you have like Ray Pagozzi, who's like really good. And then we also have Frank Vetrano coming in after his contract. So he's finally going to be able to play with us. And the kid, I heard, is a beast on the ice.
So we definitely. So,
Natalie's heard he's a beast.
Yes, that's what I heard. Word of mouth. Word of mouth.
hopefully he is a beast, because it sounds like this team needs some beasts going into the future. But it's we'll see what happens. I mean, like you said, there are some bright spots on this team. Some really strong and good freshmen that could develop into great players. So we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on them.
Yeah, and what I think is great too, which is what you touched upon, is that the coach does a great job in bringing in strong recruits. What we've always said, especially throughout this past season, is that UMass it's a good team. It's a solid team. There's never once we see them on the ice and they look like they're struggling, or they look too slow, or they look like they're a poor team. I think we're working with a good team that has solid depth. So the biggest concern is when you're losing 9 seniors, are we going to be able to bring in 9 more, or have 9 people on the bench step up? I think we're going to need to see a lot of leadership out of Troy Power. I think this is going to be, coming into the next season, his opportunity to sort of shine, so to speak. And so hopefully we'll see a lot of leadership on the ice out of him. And then
exactly. Also just to end the season, I mean, I have stats in front of me. So, I mean, Brandon Graysell, he's been our top goal scorer. So he's done like 13 goals for the entire season. And he's also ranked second for power play goals with 7. And Mike Pereira leads the team with power play goals with 8 goals. So
some solid stats there, but those are also stats that are not going to be leaving the team.
Exactly. So it's
so hopefully we'll have some guys like Jakob Ellis and Pagozzi that'll be able to make up those stats, and hopefully the team can go up from here, because it wasn't a great season for the Minutemen, and if you're losing those seniors, maybe this new group will be a fresh start, and
fresh legs.
There'll be fresh meat and
fresh meat.
They have a bye this coming week, so maybe the rest will kind of sort of ignite a little bit of a fire.
Yeah, why don't you guys, like, as you mentioned, there's a bye coming up, but why don't you guys just preview the rest of the season for this team, how they're going to finish out?
I mean, Hockey East is coming up, so like the whole big tournament's coming up on like either the 7th or the 8th, so. And then, like I said before, we're going to have Frank Vetrano join us on the ice for once. So
they'll probably be coming in a pretty low seed in that Hockey East tournament.
Yes.
So they got a lot of stepping up to do.
Yeah, it'll be very tough for them right out of the gate. But like you said, they have maybe some stepping up to do. Maybe looking forward to some of these young faces. Vetrano, as you mentioned, that'll be good to see him get out there. So some stuff to look forward to, but also some stuff to put in the past as well with this team. But we will be keeping a close eye on them, that is for sure. Ladies, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Casey.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back with UMass men's basketball.
Number 12 Providence at the Mullins Center Saturday night. Bit of an emotional game for the Minutemen, last game of the regular season, and it was senior night, so before the game, the team honored its 9 seniors: Anthony Raiola, Michael Pereira, Colin Shea, Connor Sheary, Patrick Kaitlin, Peter D'Angelo, Brandon Graysell, Adam Phillips, and Joel Hamlin. So a lot of emotions going into the game for this group of 9 as they head into their last regular season game at the Mullins Center. 6 minutes into the game, Brennan Tonev intercepts the pass. He finds Nola Akiari. Akiari puts it in, and the Friars are the first on the board. In the second period now, and Stefa Demopoulos manages to get a pass through to Marc Jankowski, and Jankowski puts it in, and Providence takes a 2-0 lead. Moving to the third period now, UMass desperate to find a score. Evan Stack takes the puck and passes it over to Colin Shea. Shea whips it at the net, and it goes in. And UMass finally on the board and within 1 of the Friars. But there was trouble for UMass later in the third period. Troy Power gets hit awkwardly and goes down. Not getting up, looks to be in a lot of pain. He's finally helped off the ice. Seems to be trying to stay off that same left leg he injured last year, and he would not return to the game. Things did not get better for the Minutemen. Just over 2 minutes left in the game, and they get a 2-minute penalty for too many men on the ice. Kind of makes it difficult to try and mount an offensive, get that tying goal. The Minutemen still managed to get a last attack together, but it came up short, and they fell to the Friars by a final score of 2-1.
Welcome back to UMass Sports Weekly. Now joining me at the table to discuss UMass men's basketball, Chris Podymaitis and Kaitlin Boyer. Guys, welcome to the table. Thanks for joining me. Good segment here. Lot to talk about. A lot of good things to talk about. First thing, got to start off with is the win over VCU Friday night.
Huge. What
a game. What a win. Great win for this team going into the end of the season and looking forward to the A-10 tournament. And also looking forward to March Madness. I think there's some good chance we really sealed our fate there.
For sure.
But we'll get into that. But it was a great win. Minutemen beat VCU 80-75 at the Mullins Center in front of a sellout crowd. Great game. And before we get to the game, I want to talk about the crowd first because this crowd was unbelievable. This is one of the best crowds the Mullins Center has seen since the days of Calipari and Canby. And I think it really rivaled any other D1 competition as far as crowds and environment for a game. It was the entire crowd. It wasn't just a student section thing. It was through and through. Everybody into it. It was loud. It was vibrating. it was just a crazy atmosphere. It was awesome to be a part of. I know anyone that was there feels the exact same way. And for them to come out with the win in the way they came out with the win as well. It was just a really exciting game, and I can't say enough about it. I wish they were all like that, but I'm really glad they came out with the win. But Chris, why don't you give us a little recap of this awesome game we had?
Well, first of all, like you said, every element was there for it to be a big game, Friday night game. So no one has school no one has school. The weekend's begun. You can have fun. ESPN2, so national television. VCU, everyone knows VCU. Everyone knows their style of play, the havoc defense.
Shaka Smart,
coach. Big coach. You've seen this team in the NCAA tournament before. It's a big game for the A-10 standings, and to have it be basically a one or two possession game for the entire night was just back and forth. You never knew, which team was going to win until the final 10 seconds. I mean, even then, UMass was up 3, but they had to inbound the ball against that press, which is never easy. So I mean, it was just a great, it was an entertaining game, up and down all night long, turnovers, layups. It was just everything you can ask for in a basketball game. But I think it shows a lot about how UMass, how tough they are. I mean, they were down by 9 in the first half. Things weren't going their way. They couldn't hit a 3. Missed a couple of pretty, easy close-up shots, and they still won. They came back, they battled back, and I thought it was fully impressive for a team that likes to, be 3 happy at times. They just said, look, they're not falling. Going to go to the hoop. We're going to draw some fouls. Going to get to the free throw line. And it was just a great game. Chaz Williams led the team. He had 20 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, typical Chaz line. And he hit 8 of 8 from free throw land to really ice the game. There were times where if he misses free throws, VCU's right back in it. But he makes it a 2-possession game with the line. VCU has to struggle back, and in the last minute, UMass was in control, and that's certainly what you wanted. It was electric atmosphere, great game. Every fan had a towel they were waving it like crazy every time UMass did something good. And it was just a phenomenal game and a phenomenal time. Yeah,
and the classic Chaz Williams move to close the game, stealing the ball on one of VCU's last possessions, where it looked like there was still a chance that they had a 3. It's going to be an overtime game, a really close game. He comes out and steals the ball, an unbelievable crucial time. Awesome game through and through. Kaitlin, what did you see? I know you were there.
As Chris said, the atmosphere of the game was absolutely unbelievable. This was an NCAA tournament game that we're talking about here, and we knew we had this game circled on the schedule since the beginning of the season. But as Chris kind of touched upon, free throw shooting was really key in this, and it was kind of interesting because I kind of felt the roles switched up a little bit. We've seen that UMass is not really a strong free throw team. And being a basketball player, honestly, you should be, but it was, it was just kind of interesting because VCU, when you really take a look at them, they missed a ton of free throws. And UMass was able to capitalize on that, and that was key. Because as Chris said, if Chaz missed a few, DG misses a few, and they're making those, could have been a lot closer, than it was there at the end. But I think that also another thing we have to look at is really the development of Trey Davis. Ever since he really stepped up last year, I mean, in this point of time, looking back how much progress he has made, it's really unbelievable. I mean, his development, he had 13 points in this game, But he's really able to get in there and hit those shots and be really crucial for this team, which I think is really great. And especially against a team against VCU, can't just depend on Chaz to do everything.
Right.
I mean, we saw Derek Gordon, 16 points. Caddy was in there. Samson Carter was in there. I mean, the starting five were really on fire. So I just think, and then, 9,493 fans, sellout crowd. I remember at one point I looked up, I saw the old UMass Final Four sign. I mean, it was crazy. I think that really, once again, just goes back to the whole thing. Havoc versus Pain, they really dominated, and they're showing that, the A-10 is a conference that I think a lot of people underrate, for lack of a better term. And, you got programs like St. Louis, you got programs like VCU that are programs. And UMass is rising up and defining themselves as a program. So I'm very impressed with the way this team played.
Yeah, I've been saying all year, and I'll be saying it forever, A-10, powerhouse of a basketball conference. Unbelievable. We were just talking about it before the show. Unbelievable in the tournament last year, starting off 6-1 for the 7 teams that made the tournament. Just a really strong division, and when you're seeing games like this, it's no surprise.
That was quality basketball.
We're seeing quality basketball. And Kaitlin, the point you touched on to follow up Chris with foul shots, it seems like we talk about that a lot on the basketball segment, is that really UMass losing these games by 8 points, but they missed 15 free throws compared to the other team missing 2 or 3. And for this game, the shoe was on the other foot. They were making their free throws, and we watched VCU constantly miss theirs. And I'm going to credit that entirely to the Mullins Center, because that place was insane, as we're talking about. But they really, really struggled from the free throw line, and it was good to finally see that on the other foot, because that has been a very frustrating aspect of this team, is their shooting from the free throw line.
And one thought on Trey Davis, like you said, how much he's developed. Last year he came in, backup point guard, basically. If you can take over the point and give Chaz 5 minutes of rest, please do it. And now this year he's scoring double digits a lot. I mean, those floaters he had in those games were tough floaters to make. He even made a very tough jump shot where he fell down halfway through. And so he's been a clutch scorer. He had a big 3 at home against St. Bonaventure in the comeback win. So it's great to see one more person in the backcourt stepping up. And, if you want to be an NCAA tournament team, if you want to be successful, guys have to step up. It can't just be one player. So, like you said, it's great to see guys like that step up, have a big game at the best times.
Yep, just a full team win. Everything we wanted to see around this time of the year. As you said, Kaitlin, this game, we had it circled. We knew it was coming, and really went well for this Minutemen team as they move on into the closing part of the season. Looking forward to this week, though, UMass has pretty busy week relative to what they have been facing. They got URI tomorrow night at the Mullins Center at 7 o'clock. Be sure to be there. We will be there, of course. And then they also are facing Dayton on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. That one is on the road. So a little travel in there for the Minutemen after this home stretch. First, we'll preview that URI game. We know URI likes to call themselves a rival of ours. We just look at them as the little brother, the little guy down the corner we push around sometimes, and we laugh at. It's funny. We give them their moment. But why don't you preview this game and what we have to do to not, make it close?
Yeah. Well, based on the standings, this looks like a game that UMass should win by 10, 15 points going away. But URI does always play us tough. And sometimes UMass, if you're not playing a great team, and a lot of teams have this, where if you're not playing a great opponent, sometimes you just don't show up to play. And those teams that, aren't that great, get back in it. And that's when that can't happen. UMass played URI earlier this year. They won 73-68, but that was in a comeback. URI got hut from 3 in the second half. E.C. Matthews at 24 points, Xavier Munford at 19 out of the backcourt for URI. So guard play is going to be crucial in this one. Again, if UMass comes to play, if they play UMass basketball, they should easily win. But URI always makes it interesting. It's on a Wednesday night, so the crowd may not be there as full. People have homework, tests. It's that time of year. But certainly it's the game where if you want to make the NCAA tournament, you have to win these games, because in the A-10 standings, right now it's so bunched up. You have to really get as many wins as possible. And URI is 3-10 in the A-10, so you have to get this win if you want to keep up in the A-10.
Yeah, it'd be a terrible way to follow up that VCU win, because a loss to URI is, in my opinion at least, I think is worse for UMass than the win against VCU was. as far as ranking and looking at them in the A10.
Yeah, and especially after losing to George Mason at home, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that was a really bad home loss. So you don't want 2 bad losses, 2 bad home losses, especially on your resume come March. So you need to get these wins.
Yeah, George Mason, no joke, the other way we were just talking, took St. Louis to overtime.
Yeah.
And so you see this bad record, but it goes back to the A10, just a strong conference when you have teams like that.
Absolutely.
Kaitlin, looking at this URI game, what do the Minutemen have to do to avoid a tragic loss?
I think that one of the first things is that they obviously have to own the Mullen Center. I think with George Mason, we just saw George Mason come in and run the show and act like this was their home court. That's unacceptable. So I think that with URI, they really just need to, they beat VCU, great win, but on to the next, and they just got to, come hard to play every day. But I think that another thing that we touched upon in the VCU game, they were not making their three-point shots, and they have to do that. I mean, they are a team that can make the adjustment where, they were missing their threes, so they knew they had to get to the rim. But I just think that that's key. They have to do that. They got to keep making the foul shots and really just keep the atmosphere up, high intensity. I mean, after VCU, I want to say that, UMass did punch their ticket, but, they still got to remember they got these games going and they got to work hard because URI, I believe the last game, it was 73-68. So it was a close one there at the end. And I feel like URI is one of those teams where it's easy to get cocky and be like, okay, we got this, but they just got to play hard, and they really got to minimize the mistakes.
Yeah, some big A10 games that you really hope the Minutemen don't play down to the other team's level, as you were saying, because we know that the talent is far better. We know they're a better team, but we have seen this team play down to the level of worse teams. Also, as I mentioned, they would be taking on Dayton Saturday on the road. Quick preview of that game, Chris. What does Dayton look like matched up against this team?
I think Dayton is definitely a tough matchup. They're 7-5 in the A10, 19-8 overall. So when you look at this game, it's on the road, early game, you're traveling after playing Wednesday. So this could be a trap game where I think it's going to be tougher than people think. One quick thing to look at with Dayton is they have 4 players that can really light it up from three-point land. So if you give them open threes, it's very tough. Jordan Siebert, Devin Oliver, Deshaun Pierre, and Carey Price all shoot about 40% from three-point land. So if you give those guys open shots, they will stay in this game, and it's going to be hard to beat them. But if they play good defense, then they should be able to come up with a win.
Gotta hope UMass doesn't shoot from 3 like they did against VCU.
Right.
Kaitlin, quick preview for Dayton. What do they have to do to win this game?
I think really with Dayton, they just have to be recognizable on the road. As we say, road games are obviously going to be harder. And with the A10 being as competitive as it is, they really just need to stay focused. I think that that's really the key, and to not ever let go, not ever, back down. So. And I think that the VCU game really brings them drive, and hopefully with URI they could just stay on the winning streak and keep that onto the road and keep that momentum, as we head into the end of the season and really into March Madness. So
some exciting basketball left to play. UMass coming off big win. We'll be keeping an eye on them with these games, and be sure to check in on those games next week. Guys, thanks for joining me. Great stuff there. Great segment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our sports desk with Marc Jean-Louis.
UMass Wednesday night. UMass coming into this game loses of 16 straight. Their last win was last year. The first half was a raining 3 parade for the Richmond Spiders, and you're about to see why. The first one in the first half by Carrie Soapy, then followed by Lauren Tolson. Then Amber Nichols decides she wants to join the fun. 3-pointer good. Lauren Tolson again. Amber Nichols again. Tolson wasn't finished. She had a third one. Lauren Tolson. And Carrie Soapy, she wanted seconds. 7 3-pointers for Richmond Spiders. They led 47-31. UMass in a hole. They're trying to mount a comeback in this one. Straight from the timeout, it's Kiara Bama with the over-the-shoulder hook, and that cuts the lead down to 12. Then off the fast break, Bria Powell tries to get an easy 2, but Rashida Tambilla says, "Not in my house!" Ha 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 ha! She had 3 blocks in this one. After Jasmine Harris layup, it's Rashida Tambilla who comes back for the steal, and she just makes it look easy from there. UMass now down 9. How about another? Yeah, I think so. Tambilla had 14 points. UMass drops it 89-76 in this one.
Good evening, UMass. My name is Marc Jean-Louis, and here's your UMass Sports Weekly Boston Sports Desk. Last night, the Boston Celtics dropped their 5th straight, this time against the Utah Jazz, to close out a 4-game West Coast swing. The Jazz, snapping a 6-game losing streak of their own, got a huge favor from Derek Favors as they beat the Celtics 110-98. Favors led all Jazz scorers with 20 points to go along with 4 rebounds and 3 blocks in his first game back from a hip injury. He said he felt rusty after the game, but rusty or not, his presence made the difference in the win for the Jazz. For the Celtics, Rajon Rondo recorded a double-double with 18 points and 10 assists, but despite strong performance from the team leader, Boston is now 4-22 against Western Conference teams and 0-13 on the road. They return home to take on the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. In Major League Baseball now, with opening day just a little over a month away, your defending world champion Boston Red Sox get set to take on Northeastern University and Boston College as part of their annual opening doubleheader on Thursday. After newly acquired outfielder Grady Sizemore said he didn't think he'd be ready to play in games right away, manager John Farrell told reporters yesterday that the outfielder will be in the lineup against Northeastern. Sizemore, now 31 years old, is trying to beat tough odds coming back from 7 surgeries since the end of the 2009 season. The 11-year veteran hasn't seen Major League action since spring training of 2012, when he required both back and knee surgery. He says he feels good, and he's been pleased with his progress so far. But he's been down this road before. He's been receiving plenty of support since joining the Red Sox, and we hope to see him make a full recovery very, very soon. To the NFL now, with the 2014 scouting combine in the books, many should be pleased with the NFL rookies about to enter this draft in May. South Carolina defensive end Jadeveon Clowney, who some consider to be the first overall pick, had some doubters going in about his work ethic on the field. But after they saw him run the 40-yard dash, any questions about his straight-ahead speed were effectively dashed right there. Clocked in at an official time of 4.53 seconds, Clowney ran the fastest out of any defensive lineman at the event. Another focus on the event, SEC Defensive Player of the Year Michael Sam did little to impress the scouts, running an official time of 4.91 in the 40. He still remains described by the experts as a system-type player who'd fit best in a scheme like the Baltimore Ravens and New England Patriots. With many questions about Johnny Manziel's height, he was measured at an official 5'11 and 3/4 inches, just 1/4 inch shy of that 6-foot threshold for NFL quarterbacks. And last but not least, your Boston Bruins are finally back after an 18-day layoff. They'll travel to Buffalo tomorrow to take on the division rival Buffalo Sabres. That game will be aired live on the NBC Sports Network Face-Off at 7:30 p.m. I'm Marc Jean-Louis, and that was your Sports Desk.
But take a look at how much snow is still in McGurk Stadium. How much snow is still on the field, even after it's been plowed. These two teams are still crazy enough to play in it, so here we go. Just over a minute into the game, and Katie Ferris finds Tanner Guarino, and Guarino puts it into the net to put UMass on the board. Just a minute later, Holy Cross trying to clear it, but they turn the ball over and it's picked up by Courtney McGrath. McGrath finds Sam Rush right in front of the net, and Rush puts it in, and the Minute Women take a quick 2-0 lead. A little later in the first half, and the Crusaders get their first score on this free position shot by Laura Ryan that puts them on the board. Then just a minute later, Holy Cross ties the game up on another free position shot, this time by Avery Giorgio. But UMass didn't take long to respond. Less than 2 minutes later, Katie Ferris finds an opening, comes around the back, and puts it in the net, and the Minute Women take back their lead. And from there, they took off. A minute later, Ferris finds Rush, bam! Just another minute later, Ferris from the free position, bam! Another minute later, Ferris to Amy Tierney, bam! 2 minutes later, Nicole Trost from the free position, bam! A 5-0 run for the Minute Women, and they go up 7-2. Just over 5 minutes left to play in the half, and Sarah Hennessy drives towards the cage and puts one in the net to finally break the Minute Women's scoring streak. Just a minute later, it's freshman Hannah Murphy getting her first goal as a Minute Woman and giving UMass an 8-3 lead going into the half. Going into the second half, and the Minute Women are at it again. Rory Sadoff from the free position, bam! Ferris to Katie Bodden, bam! Guarino driving to the cage, bam! And the Minute Women go up 11-3. 12 minutes left to play. Kate Martino finds Laura Ryan, who puts it in to break UMass's run. Holy Cross would score 2 of the last 3 goals in the game after this, and Ryan would finish with a hat trick, but it wasn't enough to catch the Minute Women, who won their first home game 12-6.
Welcome back to UMass Sports Weekly. Now joining me at the table to discuss some UMass spring athletics, Jake Liberty and Tim Dennehey. Gentlemen, welcome to the table. A lot to talk about here, a lot going on, so we'll try to give a nice brief synopsis of everything that's happening. We want to focus on some of the interesting stuff. We'll start it off with lacrosse. We got lacrosse and baseball to touch on, also softball, but men's and women's on both sides, on both fields. Started off with men's lacrosse off to a good start. 3-0 to start the season, fresh off a win over Harvard, 8-4. Good stuff seeing from the men over there. Tim, why don't you give us a little recap of how these men have started the season?
Yeah, a lot of good coming from this team early on. 3-0 starting off winning against Harvard 8-4. They're currently ranked 13 in the nation. Team's being led in this game against Harvard with 3 goals with Nick Mariano, and also 1 goal from Grant Whiteway and 2 assists from Grant Whiteway. Excuse me. And the offense is extremely solid with 32 shots, but it's not to be overlooked by our defense and goaltending. Now, Zach Oliveri with 14 saves, locking it down, keeping it great. And, this team can really go far. This team can really go somewhere if they're keeping up this upbeat tempo, this great play that they have going on right now.
Yeah, 14 saves. I mean, that's a pretty high number for some of the saves you hear. We usually hear sometimes single digits, somewhere around 10. So 14, that's good to hear from Oliveri. And Grant Whiteway, that's a guy they're going to need putting up points all year. So good to hear stuff coming from good stuff coming from Grant Whiteway as well. Some of the guys that we've been talking about that are going to have to come in and be the new face of this program. And as you said, number 13 right now, that's the kind of stuff we like to see. That's what we were hoping for with the start of this team. So very good start there from the Minutemen. Now over to women's lacrosse. Jake, women are coming off a nice win over Holy Cross, 12-6, but the bigger focus is on the future now in this game Wednesday against BU. So why don't you give us a quick recap of Holy Cross, but look more into this BU game.
Holy Cross, easy win, 12-6. They're crushing it as usual. They're coming off 3-0. They have the big names just like men's lacrosse does. They have Grant Whiteway. Girls have Katie Ferris. Mm-hmm. They got Oliveri, and we have Rachel Valarelli, who actually had an outstanding game against Holy Cross. A bunch of staves there. Like you said, big game against BU this Wednesday. The past 4 meetings between the teams have been split 2-2. 2 games being decided by 2 goals, 2 games being decided by 1 goal. The last meeting, UMass last year was 14 in the nation, and BU came in and upset us actually 9-8. Big win for BU, big loss for UMass. Hopefully we can redeem ourselves this Wednesday, no doubt. It's actually at McGurk, and the past 8 years UMass has been at McGurk. The girls lacrosse has gone 42-16 all time. With 2012, they've been at 11-0 at home, and in 13, they've been 10-0. So they have a solid home record, no doubt. Again, the past 3 years, they've been 57-8, 3 A10 championships, 3 visits to the NCAA tournament. They're really just, always a solid team. The BU is coming off of 2 tough losses against number 1 North Carolina and number 2 Maryland. So, you definitely got to see them wanting a win. Mm-hmm. You got to see us wanting to redeem ourselves from last year. So I definitely see a really good game coming up this Wednesday at McGurk.
Yeah, very strong team over the past couple of years that we have been watching with this women's lacrosse team. And BU has really been one of the only teams that has given them problems.
Absolutely,
when this team has been pretty dominant as far as the A10 goes, and the East Coast lacrosse. It's been impressive to watch, led by Katie Ferris. So this BU game, big hump for them starting off the season. As you said, 3-0. 4-0 sounds a lot better than 3-1. Big game for them there. We'll be sure to be keeping an eye on that. Now, moving over to the Diamond here. News isn't so good over there as it is on the lacrosse field. We'll start it off with the baseball team. Men have started off 0-3 to start the season. Exact opposite of the lacrosse team. Haven't won a game yet. Just lost both games in a doubleheader to Army. Tough start there. Jake, why don't you talk about the start of the season so far?
Just like you said, unlike the lacrosse teams, baseball has really been struggling. I can't even remember when they started being bad. They've been bad, pretty long time.
Yeah.
Again, like you said, they're 0-3 start of the season. You do have some hope for them. You got some batters hitting pretty well. Paulie Anacopoulos, actually from my hometown of Medford. He's a junior now. He went 2-4 in game 1. And I think he went 3-5 in game 2. So, he's doing well. You got a lot of other big names. Nick Campero, the senior, he's doing well. They're really struggling, though, at the pitching position. You got some freshmen up there. Ryan Maloney, he went up there, his first collegiate start as a freshman, he went 8 innings, which is, that's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah,
first game ever. But he did end up getting really tired, and Army took advantage of that, scoring 5 runs off of him in the 8th. Can't blame him, first collegiate start again, but still, you don't see much hope on the mound. You got to hope that they really do step it up. Pitching staff needs to improve. Other than that, though, it's really just that, just giving up runs that you can't. They've had a few 9-inning rallies where they're starting to come back, score a lot more runs. There's definitely some hope for them. However, they just haven't had the start that we were hoping they would have. Definitely want to see improvements in them.
Yeah, it sounds like you get some coach issues with this team. When you have a freshman starter going 8 innings, if he starts getting rocked in the 8th inning, that should be a sign you need a reliever to come in.
No doubt.
There shouldn't have been the opportunity for 5 runs to be scored off this kid in the 8th inning. To me, that just sounds like basic coaching, I'm a fan of baseball. I don't consider myself any expert of baseball, but freshman pitcher, first collegiate start, letting up runs in the 8th inning of his start. Somewhere in there, you got a 7th inning, you got to see it somewhere. Like you said, this team has struggled for a long time, and maybe if it isn't the players, maybe it's something in the coaching they got to look at, because, that just, it doesn't sound right to me. I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything on baseball, but it's someone with knowledge of baseball that watches it here and there. I think anyone would say that's kind of that situation shouldn't happen. Maybe something happens with a 3-run home run or something like that, and that's when you pull them. But the fact that 5 runs were scored, that means they had time to make the move, and they didn't make the move. So, like you said, hopefully we'll see some changes in this team. It's been a rough start as usual for this team, but we'll check back in on them next week, see how things are happening. Softball, kind of on the same note, same tone here. Nothing too positive. Why don't you talk about their opening week so far?
Yeah, their opening week, they were in the NFCA Leadoff Classic. They didn't really start out the way that they wanted to. They went 1-4, winning only 1 game. Now, these 2 games they lost by rather larger deficits. One against Charleston, 13-3, and the other against Hofstra, 8-0. Now, in softball, it's not really the numbers that you really want to put
not
up
at all.
right there. Now, I don't really see this as a huge deal, playing poorly in this tournament, because the past 8 years that we played in this tournament, we've not won more than 2 games. So we have gone on to have successful seasons after having a losing record in this tournament, like in the 2011 season where we won the majority of our games. So leading the way for the men and women is freshman Co Clark and junior Quiana Diaz-Patterson. They're both batting .375, and they have a chance to turn it around. Upcoming tournament, that is the Louisville tournament that's coming up in March. They're hoping to bounce back against Ohio State, but we'll see how they do. Hopefully, baseball and softball, they can really, get going like lacrosse did.
Yeah, it seems like that opening season tournament, like you said, they've struggled in that. Maybe that's just the bump they need to get over to start the season, get their legs under them, and then move on from here. Some bright spots, 2 girls batting over .375, very impressive numbers there. What do you see for this team in the future? What do you think they need to do as they develop for the rest of the season?
Well, really, I just think they just come more together as a team. If they come together as a team, they play as a team, they perform as a team, they should have a winning record like 2011.
Well,
I really don't see anything wrong with this team.
Yeah, nothing too much. Just a rough start. Not as much as the used to roughness we've seen for baseball. We've gotten accustomed to a little bit. But I'm sure the softball team will be able to turn this around. See another solid season out of this team, because we know there's a very solid group of players on that team. So good stuff on the lacrosse field. Not so much on the diamond here for the start of our spring athletics season. But hey, good to see we got a ranked team in there with men's lacrosse, 2 undefeated teams. And baseball and softball, we'll keep the faith. There's still time, but men's lacrosse will be keeping a sharp eye on there, number 13 in the country, guys. Great stuff. Appreciate it. As always, we thank you at home for watching, and then check us out on Facebook at UMass Sports Weekly. Give us a like. There you can get plenty of segments and footage of our show. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sports Weekly, your number 1 for UMass basketball coverage. We'll be there at all the games, covering and up-to-date in-game stat updates just for you. And as always, we thank you for watching, and we'll be here next week, same time, same place.